Mother, you send me to horse school, and it's the whole
No,
time I'm like, there are no horses here.
It's
What
her
is
uncle.
happening?
You send me to horse school. I am riding and I have a crop and I am Russian.
Please, God, make
It's very Russian. I throw a shrimp on the Barbie.
That's more authentic Russian accent than all of the film put together.
I just want to ease into the pod. Just want to ease it in. Okay. You're already making everyone angry.
It's my bird call.
Yeah.
It's my bird call for this pod.
That's why there's birds all over us right now.
It's a successful.
Got to cut every little chip out. How are you?
I am tired, my guy.
Yeah, me too.
This.
As you know, I'm stressed.
Yeah.
I know that we don't normally do this on the pod because we don't talk about too much personal stuff. But if anyone wants advice, if anyone's out there, if any kids out there are like, John, what should I do for a living? I say don't.
Don't. Just don't.
I say just don't.
You want to stay making a living?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
try not to. Why don't you have, a podcast with where you just do the,
You should start a podcast called Whore School.
This is going to sound so weird without context. But
Not to anyone who's seen the film we're discussing today, Pri, which is called
Red Sparrow.
Welcome to the Low Ceiling. I'm John.
And I'm Pri.
We didn't say that at the Pearl Harbor episode.
You know why?
We were too impassioned about the film, about the cinema.
That's because today, actually, we're talking Pearl Harbor 2.
Red
More
Sparrow.
sex, all violence. This is what we should be called Black Sparrow. Just dark as hell, man.
Yeah.
Vanta Black Sparrow.
So as we sometimes do, but not consistently enough to pat ourselves on the back, there's a content warning for this film.
100%.
There's a lot of stuff in it. It's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, Red Sparrow, Francis Lawrence joint.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Lawrence joint.
J-Law, baby.
Matthias Schoenkartz.
What's his face?
I also think this is a really, really good opportunity that, everyone's probably like, oh, I miss the days of From Hell when you guys did, English accents and stuff. And we have, we can do lots of really good Russian accent. Honestly, it's the best time because nobody can really be like, that's offensive because Russians are so cool and such a high level standing in society these days. Everyone's like, I love Russia.
Yeah, damn right.
Yeah.
So much so that nobody in this movie butchers the Russian accent. They don't even attempt it. They're just like, you know what? We're going to do a loose British, somewhat adjacent.
J-Law does.
J-Law does a decent
She
job.
does a decent Russian accent. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence is good in this film. I'll say it. I'm not afraid to say it. I think she's good in this movie.
I think this movie didn't need to have a Jennifer Lawrence. It could have just had someone who has a Russian accent.
Well, I watched this movie again today in preparation for the pod because I'm a scholar.
Psychopath.
And a gentleman.
God.
I liked it more than the previous attempts I had at watching it. I liked it more. However, there's a very large part of it that I fucking hate. Just straight up hate.
There's lots of it to hate because this movie goes on for 16 hours.
It's so long. So, and the other thing too is I was thinking as I was looking over my notes, I don't want to be too hard on this movie for a couple reasons. Not because I love Jennifer Lawrence, not because I love Francis Lawrence, not because I love Charlotte fucking Rampling, but because
you love Jeremy Irons.
I love Jeremy Irons. The reason I don't want to be really hard on this film is because it actually does stuff that I wish more films did. It's R-rated with a big budget, and it's aimed at adults, and it has a star-driven performance. I don't think it's very successful at that.
Yeah.
In overall, But I do kind of wish more films like this were made, and you can't really wish for them to all be fucking bangers. They're just not. But this is like kind of in the same vein of films where I'm just like, boy, I don't need another Pixar film. I would like something more like this.
You know what? I'll say this. Audience, you will all like this movie as long as you're not waiting for anything to happen.
Yeah.
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 So as long as you get the gratuitous violence, you get all the mad sexing, you get all the bloodshed, you don't get any plot.
It's a if you have a stomach for violence and lots of sexually explicit violence.
Yeah.
It's a popcorn thriller. It's a pretty good, successful popcorn thriller in my opinion.
Where's the thrill?
Yeah, I agree that the tension sort of dissipates in this film in lots of ways, and I want to get into why in a minute. Actually, I'll get into it now.
No, what? Yeah, tell me, what are you thinking?
I have lots of pre-plot stuff to talk about, and then we can get into the plot, which is incoherent. But so one of the things I was thinking about as I watched this movie is, so if I was reading correctly, it's based on a book by a former CIA operative. Cool. Thumbs up. That's really great.
Nice.
He knows stuff. He advised on the film. Awesome. I believe that some of that stuff is real. But the film is set in present-day Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Not so present today, but at the time, present-day Russia. And I think the book was set in the Cold War. Where, while the movie feels like a Cold War thriller still, which frustrates me because subconsciously, I think audiences, myself included, and maybe you feel this way, the movie feels like contextless. Like, it's like, why does any of this fucking matter?
Yeah.
Like, why does any of this matter in the greater scheme of Russia-America spy shit? It just doesn't seem to be real, you know? And it seems to be like free-floating in this zone of just being like, I don't get why I should care about any of this, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
You're totally right. Now that I think back on when was it set, because it does look modern, but it sounds from like a Cold War time.
Well, but Charlotte Rampling says, like, in horror school, she's like, oh, Americans are all have their head in the clouds, they're stuck with social media and all this kind of stuff. So it's set in the modern day.
Yeah.
Except the other thing too, I was thinking about this today. I was like, they use all this old Cold War-esque like tradecraft stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do none of them have a fucking cell phone? Because that would be really useful. I think cell phones are probably really useful to spies these days.
Yeah.
As well as like the internet. You know, like most spying is actually done over the internet. Yeah. And it's so weird. It's like they just lifted the story into modern times, but they didn't bring any of the modern shit with them,
it.
You know?
No.
It's really interesting. And it works against the movie. Especially, then again, like, I've seen it a couple times now, and yeah, it works against it because I'm paying that much attention to it. But I think people might not really give a shit, except for me.
Even in the paying attention to it, it is so hard to pay attention to this movie without like zoning out every 20 minutes or so, because so much of nothing keeps happening.
And the other thing too, it's a titillating, violent, kind of sexy yet very unsexy thriller where I'm sure if I had seen the trailer, which I haven't, you'd be like, oh, that looks exciting. And it's like, it's not.
No.
It's not exciting very much at all.
Mm-mm.
It's kind of just oppressively grim and slow, you know.
Can I talk about the opening? Because I do have some thoughts about the montage there.
Can we wait till the plot? Because I have some other stuff. So I don't talk often about like the context of the film, but I do want to talk about Jennifer Lawrence, and specifically, why does she have such bad taste in films?
In movies? Yeah.
Why doesn't she do stuff I like? Specifically me, Jennifer. I'm talking right to you, and I'm being snarky. I don't actually believe you have bad taste. I think you've done some misses. My assumption is that you have bad taste because you've worked so often with David O. Russell, one of modern cinema's worst criminals. And I every time you're in a David O. Russell film, I'm just like, I wish you did something different. And that goes, Jennifer.
Got you covered with Hunger Games.
I'm not singling you out. That goes for everyone who works with David O. Russell.
Yeah. Equal opportunity hater. Look at you.
I'm being snarky. I can't stand his filmmaking. It really rubs me the wrong way. That said, I like Three Kings. Like I don't hate all of his work, but generally I just can't stand his work in most part. I think all of it, everything I've watched since like Silver Linings Playbook, I've just been like,
oh shit,
I don't fucking get it. I really don't get it. Yeah.
So,
but then Jennifer Lawrence, so she wins an Oscar for Silver Linings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which objectively she's very good in that. I don't like that movie, but she's good in it. And then she goes on this run of just between Silver Linings and Red Sparrow.
Mm-hmm.
She goes on a really interesting run of stuff that I'm just kind of like, So
why?
Catching Fire, Hunger Games, obviously. American Hustle that could go away and I would be okay with that. Days of Future Past. So with Days of Future Past, I don't remember it very much, the X-Men movie. But if I do remember correctly, she's kind of not in a lot. Like she's bigger in First Class and then kind of slowly fades out of the X-Men chronology. Right?
Yeah, for me, definitely, like, her as Mystique is a miscasting. It's just...
I think she's a good Mystique.
I disagree. I feel like there's so many more Mystique-y looking actors out there who would hit the nail on the mark.
As we talked about in our X-Men episode, across two series, they have cast Mystique well, in my opinion. Because I like Jennifer Lawrence and I like Rebecca Romijn. Like, they're both cast well, I thought. But they definitely, like, with Lawrence, they definitely tried to, like, humanize Mystique more.
Maybe that was the point then.
Maybe that's why you hate her.
Maybe that, because Mystique is supposed to be slightly menacing, little bit more alluring. Like, you want her to be kind of a sex symbol, which Jennifer Lawrence is a baby, dude.
Yeah. And
like,
you
it just doesn't feel
kind
right.
of are a misanthropic person, and you're just kind of like, oh, are they human? I hate them.
I mean...
Okay, so then she doubles up on the Mockingjay, because that had to be split into two films for some reason. And speaking of which, all of those are Francis Lawrence, The Hunger Games, except for the first one, are Francis Lawrence joints. Then she does Joy, which is inexplicable, like... X-Men Apocalypse. Again, so the other thing, too, while I like Lawrence as Mystique, I think the X-Men movies, starting with Apocalypse, just turn into... garbage.
Even though with a powerhouse performance by Mr. Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
Still a hard sell. A hard sell, that one.
And then, well, speaking of hard sells, she does Passengers. Which I tried so hard to watch that with you, and I couldn't turn towards it. I just like could not do it.
No, it's the that's we don't speak of the P word in this.
And then she does, and this is going to be controversial for me, she does a movie that I quite liked, Mother, by my second least favorite filmmaker, Darren Aronofsky. And Mother, I like Mother, and then she does Red Sparrow, and out of all of those, I'm kind of like, oh, so Mother is the best movie she's done since she won an award, and Red Sparrow is the second best movie, which is really weird to say, because overall, I don't think this movie is very good, even though she's really good in it.
It's her. It's mostly her.
Yeah.
And
the thing that frustrates me is she has the power to carry a film, and I think she's that good of an actress, but I don't know. And then she goes and she does Don't Look Up, which I really love. I liked her in Don't Look Up. I thought she was well cast.
Yeah.
I liked that she wasn't the lead of that film. I thought her performance was excellent in a movie that I really liked. So yeah. And
for that reason, I feel like J-Law deserves to be a strong supporting actor and almost never a lead actor.
But she
has that rock star quality, but my God, man, she cannot lead a film to save its life.
We just said she can. She led this one.
I know, but like with no plot, does her star power warrant enough attention? Not to me. It just felt kind of weak.
I want her to work with like Spielberg or Fincher or something. Like not I don't mean to cast shade on anyone but David O. Russell in this conversation, but like I want her. I mean, she's worked with Deborah Granick, and she was nominated for an Academy Award. But I want to see her with like one of those, like big kind of, I don't know, or just to do something really weird, just
Because
something totally out of left
she's
field.
like good weird.
Yeah,
she's got like that quality that you miss her when she's not on screen, but when she's on it all the time, it's like, all right, man.
But
like,
in real life, as much as I've seen her, and who knows, like that could be a performance, but she is a very like bubbly and energetic person.
Yeah.
And she puts out this kind of vibe of being like fun
chill,
and goofy.
chill girl.
And
yeah.
as much as that might be fake, like I don't know. But maybe like that instead she's kind of treated as this kind of more like classical bombshell dramatic actress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like I don't know. I just wish she did more different things.
Yeah.
But again, it's all a matter of taste. Guys, don't get a job. Just don't ever do it. Just quit your job. Start a podcast responding to me being wrong about everything I've said in this podcast.
Sick. I'm down for that.
So, okay. Francis Lawrence, the other Lawrence involved in this situation.
Regrettably.
I have nothing against the guy.
Yeah.
He's never done something I've really liked. And for our listeners, we're actually going to double up on the Lawrence here, not just with Jennifer and Francis. We're going to be doing Constantine next, which I do kind of like, but honestly, I like it about as much as this movie, you know, although it's a big cult movie and you like it, right?
I love Constantine, and it's been a minute since you saw Constantine, hey?
I started watching it when it was on Netflix around like last year-ish.
Okay. And a year is good enough time for the brain to lose power.
I saw it in theaters when it came out.
Oh, so you're an OG? Okay, yeah, fair. The more I've seen Constantine, the more I've liked it. It's one of those movies that grew on me over time. So definitely a special place in the heart.
It's grown on lots of people though, especially like Keanu's huge obviously now, but also I think Constantine was not super well liked when it came out, and then it came out in a strong year. We've done a couple of 2005s, and Constantine is one of those.
Hell yeah,
I think, and I mean we'll talk more about this next week, but whatever. Like
Mr. Lawrence,
Francis Lawrence. So although, again, he's a totally talented, good director. And there's lots of stuff in this movie I really like.
Yeah.
With that he does.
Yeah.
And there was a quote because I'm really, really good journalist. I forgot to write down where it was, but it was in an interview. I think it was on IndieWire. And he said something that I was like, man, I don't think you pulled this off, but I really respect you for trying. So I'm going to read this quote.
Yeah.
So he says, I think audiences are used to a world where everything is familiar and everything is a take on a thing on a thing on a thing, as opposed to something really unique. There are lots of movies that glamorize the world of espionage. I was interested in doing the opposite of that. I was interested in doing the version where it's very brutal, cold, violent world where the stakes are very high. And I was like, I think you did that, but it didn't produce a film that's like, you didn't hit the target of making a very entertaining film because of that. But I do, I'm kind of like, I respect that was your goal in this film.
He got the first half of it. He nailed it. He got the brutality. He got the sense of cold, adult watch, R-rated aspect. 100%. It lacks so much in terms of plot or energy or drive.
Chemistry.
There's fucking no charisma, man.
Yeah.
It is such a bleak, dare I say, boring film.
At times, yes. And that's what really frustrates me
about it. Which is the only thing you need from a spy thriller is thrill.
You need the thrill part, guys. You need the thrill,
and the spies are not that good of a spy either. So it's like, all right, Mystique, fucking do one more.
I think like Lawrence's, and we'll get to this, but like I think her character's motivation is very cloudy at times in this movie, and maybe I'm just an idiot and it shifts so subtly that I don't notice, but I'm sometimes I'm never really quite sure why she's doing the thing she's doing.
Yeah. And I think that is the biggest downfall of this movie, is that I know they're all spies or whatever, but there's no reason for you to kind of count on them or want them to win or fail. And you just feel ambivalent, because in all the harshness that these characters have, none of that harshness feels warranted. They're just cold, but like, why? What are your motivations? We don't know. I don't want to, I don't want like a throwback to the past where we see I don't want any of the flashbacks, but tell us a little bit about why these characters act the way they do. They don't. There's never justified.
That's also a function of the contextlessness feel of the film. It's just kind of like, it sounds harsh, but it's like, okay, so if she dies, so what?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What,
exactly.
you know, kind of like in superhero movies, for example, or like big blockbusters, it's like the stakes are a little too high. It's like the world always has to be close to ending.
Yeah.
But in this, it's kind of like, well, I don't want her or her mother to die. But I don't really care if they do.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
what it doesn't mean much for anyone else.
You know what? At that point, I do want someone to die because I'm like, maybe something will happen in this movie.
Yeah, a lot of that is lost. It was certainly lost on me. I wanna say one more thing before we get into the plot. Do you have something else you
No,
took a
I
breath?
just wanted to talk about you keep calling it whore school, but let's call it Sparrow school.
Sorry, the reason I'm calling that,
calls it.
I know that it should be called sex worker school. I get it. But she calls it whore school.
Yeah. But like for context.
Every review that I read brings up that quote.
Mother, you send me to whore school, and it's the whole time I'm like, there are no horses here.
It's
what
her
is
uncle.
happening?
You send me to horse school. I am riding and I have a crop and I am Russian.
Please God, make
It's very Russian. I throw a shrimp on the Barbie.
That's more authentic Russian accent than all of the film put together.
So one other thing about Jennifer Lawrence. In 2014, Jennifer Lawrence has her nudes leaked online, which is a total violation of someone's privacy. And it's really awful.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of people in the lead up to this film, it's like, oh, Jennifer Lawrence is going to do a nude scene. It's kind of, she's a big star. People are like, that's interest. You know, some people just want to see her get naked, obviously.
Little boys.
As I said, shortly after this movie came out, I was on a plane.
Yeah.
Every man on the plane was watching this film. And it bounced from seat to seat to seat. As soon as Jennifer Lawrence came on screen nude, it was like one guy was like, oh fuck, I want to watch that.
Yeah.
And just bounced from seat to seat to seat. But, you know, she has her nudes leaked. It's a gross violation of someone's privacy.
100%.
Regardless of their celebrity or whatever you think of that, it's awful. And I really she had a lot of power, and her and Francis Lawrence worked in giving her the power over, you know, what she was going to do in this movie. And she goes for it. She really goes for it. And something I noted about this movie before I read this, I'm gonna read another quote, which I thought was interesting, was like how unsexy this film is. You know what I mean? Is like it's really, really not like it sometimes feels like it's meant to be, but it's really not.
It's cheap.
And she said in this, I think the same piece that I didn't mark down because I'm a really, really good journalist.
Sick.
So she says, my approach for it was never to be sexy. I think that once again, there's a sort of perception that if you're going to do a movie about someone who's trying to seduce for information, that there's going to be a lot of red lipstick and high heels and things like that. There's really not. And I really respect that. And she's going for that. And I think she gets it. Like, I think that's true.
Yeah, because it's a little bit more about power play.
Even the scene where she gets naked, it's so uncomfortable and really gross and just like unpleasant to watch. You know? Yeah. So I think there are, like I said, there are aspects of this movie that they fucking nail, and lots of it that they just don't.
It's good in bits because a movie, like obviously the direction and then the camera work, all of the little tiny scenes that make up a character's, you know, persona is great. The way they set up Jennifer Lawrence as this person who changes over time, great. The way they set up the teacher at the, you know, sex worker school, great. There is nothing driving them to their ultimate actions, though. It's just in these little static moments you see the brilliance of these actors. Fucking Jeremy Irons slaps. Like, even if their accents are goofy, doesn't matter. They're all powerhouses, right? But then I'm not watching a movie for these little glimpses of joy. I want a fucking thriller when I watch a spy thriller.
The sum of its parts is greater than the whole.
There you go.
In a way.
Yeah.
And I will say that there is one performance in this movie that I think fucking sucks from a great actress. Charlotte Rampling is a piece of shit in this. I fucking hate her performance. I think it's so dumb.
I thought she was
And
British.
she's British French, I believe.
No, in the movie, I thought she was British because her accent.
Yeah, they imported a matron from Britain. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think her performance is terrible. I think it's not well written. I think it's just stupid, and she plays very wooden and just lame. I really don't like it. Speaking of things that are good, let's get to the plot, because I really liked
things that are good.
The opening sequence, but you also wanted to talk about the opening sequence, and I want to give you the floor. But before we do that, I just want to say that, did you know that red Sparrow in Russia means sex worker? I'm just kidding. Go on.
Sick. Okay. As you know, my memory is always excellent, and I immediately remember how this movie starts.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to jump 20 minutes ahead, and then I'm going to have to backtrack.
That's exactly it. So, the opening scene has this, like, editing cut back and forth between two people. Yes or no?
It's called a montage pre.
Oh, thanks, John. Could you write a book about it? Start a podcast. Fuck. All
I
right.
used my PhD to come up with that one. I study at the Moscow Movie School.
Nobody can see this.
The Sergei Eisenstein School for Moscowites of Movie
throw this
People.
mic at your head. Plunk. I'm gonna red Sparrow at your head. Okay, so the opening scene has this montage between two people. One of them, it's like a parallel between two actions that the audience is meant to understand are happening at the same time in two different places, right? One, Joel Edgerton plays a CIA guy who has a covert meeting in a park, and Jennifer Lawrence's character, Dominica, is elsewhere at a ballet theater doing her performance.
Yeah, also you see her getting her mom ready to be with her the caretaker before she goes to performance too.
Sure.
Because she starts, I really like the opening sequence is just her sitting on the bed listening to headphones with the music from what she's going to dance to.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. This whole opening sequence I think is awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Really
the
good
first
start.
20 minutes, love it. Love it. The gaslighting this movie did after that. So for one scene, CIA guy, he's in this park, he's running around, and then the scene ends in gunfire and chase. Gorky Park.
He runs to the American embassy.
Wait.
Sorry.
God. So he's the one end of the scene is this guy in a gunfire and chase, and then the other end of the scene is Dominica's performance, which is cut short when her partner mid-performance jumps and like lands on her leg, crushing it to the bone, and her bone sticks out. Like, it's excellent.
Her even like we've said, every bit of like violence in this film is over the top.
Yeah.
Even this injury, like even the sound of it is just fucking harsh.
Fuck.
I wanna just point out like one like not nerdy thing, but something I really liked.
Yeah.
I love when movies have just small moments of just kind of beautiful little images that you're like, I want to just freeze frame that.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where Joel Edgerton, his name's Nate Nash in the film. Nate Nash.
Of course it is.
Nate Nash, the greatest Australian American spy.
Nate Nash.
He's walking in the subway and he's standing in front of this wall. And for a moment, it's just him against this wall of these little red circles. And it's just a really cool, like, he walks down these stairs and then this wall kind of envelops him and then he walks out of it. It's like a cool little, I mean, this opening montage is fantastic. It's really a good start to a film.
And that's because then that's where you start to think, or you get tricked into thinking that this movie's about to blow my fucking mind, because there's this cool spy shit on one side, cool assault in front of 1,000 people on the other side. And you think it's going to be this pulpy Soviet spy thriller.
This movie is about to Red Sparrow me all over the joint. Yeah. But then
the rest of the movie happens.
Well, yeah, so she breaks her leg. She's done. That's a career-ending injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's over for her.
It's over. Balleting is fucking over.
So she's sad about it, and she goes home to her mom.
She goes home to mom, and then her uncle, played by Matthias Tight Schoenhartz. I don't even know if I'm saying that name right. He's Belgian. He's a good actor. I like him
Uncle
too.
Russia comes in.
Uncle Vanya.
Mm-hmm.
There is one issue with the beginning montage which I dislike. I have a real thing about like which characters in films actually have the power to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
So like certain characters in a novel, right? You have perspectives of characters, and if you're a good writer, you're actually really telling a story from the perspective of a character, even if you're in third person, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And in film, you do that, right? You want to see the perspective of certain characters, even if you see other characters here and here and here.
Yeah.
But you'll notice in filmmaking, this is filmmaking 101, that it's like lots of films, you only get to see what certain characters see. That's their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot see anything they don't see. And there's a moment in this where this montage has set up that Jennifer Lawrence and Joel Edgerton have storytelling power, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Kieran Hines, Jeremy Irons, and Matthias Schoenhartz just having a scene of fucking exposition. And I'm like, oh, that annoys me.
Mm-hmm.
I know it kind of has to be there. And they set up the entire stakes of the film. But it is like, but they don't have the power. You know, and they don't really have it again later in the film. It's still totally run by J. Law and Joel Edgerton.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff kind of drives me insane, even though it's not like the worst crime in cinema history, but like it's something I noticed right at the beginning. It's before the title drop even, is this one scene where they're just like, here's the big problem of the film, Red Sparrow.
Yeah.
And so that's a little just pet peeve of mine. It's not a big deal.
I feel like
it's a thing.
even every time it's just men talking in a room, I'm zoned out. I'm gone. I'm so far away from the film because none of the riveting shit has happened leading up to the conversation, and now I'm like, oh no, I gotta pay attention to just conversations.
Yeah, and the movie is also just so long, and you figure all that shit out later anyway.
Exactly.
I think the next time you see Joel Edgerton, he kind of explains all that shit
again.
And so like, of all the scenes you could cut, that's kind of a scene you can cut.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so Matthias Schoenhartz recruits her to seduce this guy and replace his phone. Do a little mild spycraft.
Well, because he says that, listen, nothing is like out of your hand. Like everything that happens is a result of your own actions, to Jennifer Lawrence's character.
Yeah.
So just because
that's a real big lie.
Just because your leg is all fucked and you can't dance no more doesn't mean you have to be useless.
Yeah. And she knows he's in the Secret Service or whatever. He's in the SBF.
He's in the SBF 50.
He was part of the crypto crash with SBF. Yeah. No, and so she goes to, like, he recruits her, and then he kind of gets her on his side by being like, your ballet friend who fucking ended your career. Mm-hmm. He planned it with his girlfriend who replaced you. And then Jennifer Lawrence goes and beats them with like a golf club or something.
Yeah.
In a very excessive scene that I don't understand. Yeah. Like and now here's the thing that I don't understand about it. Me and you talked about it and we were just like, no, got to talk about it on the podcast. Here's what I wanted to say. She beats these people up, which shows she's capable of violence. But later, it's not like she becomes James Bond. She becomes a Red Sparrow, which is about, intimacy and blah, blah. She doesn't really become a killer. And so it doesn't explain to me, it doesn't reveal anything about her. Like, it's like, oh, she has the capacity to kill, because Jennifer Lawrence isn't in this movie, doesn't really take part in violence very often.
I think the whole point of the Sparrow School, which AKA the sex school.
We'll get to that.
The men and women who go there to learn the art of deception and espionage and persuasion and all of that, somehow all of that has to involve a lesson that has sexual humiliation. Every single test or lesson that is taught in that school has to do with sex and power through sex. So really, there is no conversation about killing or murder. You can get the information you want by just being a sex spy or fucking manipulation or blackmail, which she does through the rest of the film. It was them showing that Jennifer Lawrence got so angry that her career ended that she killed 2 people with almost killed. Beat the shit out with like a fucking iron.
I thought
bat.
the first time around, I missed that whole thing that they had set it up, and she doesn't. I thought she beat them to death, and she doesn't. She calls, and it's never. I don't think it's ever really talked about that they died or anything, but I think it's just a savage beating with it.
Yeah, she lives. Like they passingly mentioned that the girl survives with like 400 stitches or something. I don't know. But the whole point of that education part of being a spy, which comes later on, is so fucking diluted that just makes you lose even more faith in the movie.
I have so much to say about the Sparrow School when we get to it. Okay. So, but this scene isn't in a vacuum. I think is really a cool image, violent, brutal scene where it's all steamed up and there's like she interrupts them having sex and like. Yeah, it's a little reminiscent of like Eastern Promises in a way.
Totally.
But I just didn't get the point of it
because we don't know her motivation.
Yeah, and
beyond
this is one of the problems.
Obvious. Yeah.
So she then goes to do some light spycraft to this guy, and I want to go through this because like this is really just brutal, and she gets he rapes her in this hotel, and as he's raping her, a guy sneaks in the window and chokes him to death with a piano wire.
Yeah.
And
but she has already been assaulted.
Yeah,
by
and then
this point.
Escapes with her. And then she goes back to fucking some spy basement somewhere in Moscow. And Jeremy Irons says, well, kill her. And Matthias Schoenhardt says, I don't want to kill her. There's another option, though. We'll send her to Red Sparoshka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll send my little sweet niece.
Russian for school for re-education. No, I don't know. Yeah, and it's... Yeah, and then Sparrow School happens.
Yeah.
My feelings about this is like where I the first time I tried to watch this movie, I couldn't get through it because of this.
No.
Not because I find it disturbing, even though parts of it are, but I have a high tolerance for pretty disturbing stuff. I just found it so fucking stupid.
It's so boring.
I just don't believe it.
Tired. It's tired.
And I did read there is one line on Wikipedia that like, while these schools are like rumored to have existed, there's no real concrete proof that they did. Sexpionage is a thing.
Yeah.
I don't believe it would ever happen this way where it's like the Hogwarts school of fucking and sucking. Like and like Professor McGonagall is being like, yeah, like cradle the balls and shit like that. Like I just don't think that's real.
You can't.
Like, so this whole scene, it kind of pisses me off because I'm just like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the thing that pisses me off even more is that like around this big long sequence where she is fucking assaulted again.
Yeah.
There's a competent spy film that really doesn't need this.
No.
And I don't see but the other problem is that the Sparrow School is the thing that distinguishes this film from other spy films.
Yeah.
And it's the worst part of the movie.
Yeah.
Pisses me off so much.
Expecto my scrotum. I hated it so much. I hated all of it. Also, leading up to that, the reason she listens to her uncle and goes on that preliminary mission where she wants to get information from the general or whatever, that guy who ends up assaulting her, when she's talking to him at a bar, he's already onto her. He's like, what are you doing here? What do you want from me? To which Dominica, Jennifer Lawrence, says, well, I always wanted to be a ballet dancer, and now my leg is broken, but I know that I'm special. So I just want to get back in the academy somehow. Like, I am special. Like, bro, go be a waitress. Go get a regular job, crazy. She's like, nah, spyware. Like, right away.
No, but I don't think that she was... I don't think she expected whatever to happen would happen, as she says later. And also, her mom intimates that her uncle kind of has, like, a lot of control over her.
Yeah.
And there was some, like, abuse in the background and stuff. And so I don't think she really thinks it's appropriate to stand up to her uncle.
Sure. Because
her uncle says, like... And this is how people get roped into horrible things like this at
Mhm.
time, like crime, for example, but
Yeah.
also I guess like nefarious state actors, kind of like, hey, you do this one thing for me, you know,
Yeah.
it'd be easy.
Yeah.
And then later you find out that he's like, if I had told you what would happen, you wouldn't go. And it's like, oh, gross.
Yeah. Of
It's
course.
so gross.
Of
yeah.
course.
And she sees that, right? Which is why, sorry, in the end, we're skipping ahead, but in the end of the movie, that's why she fucking gives up her uncle.
Yeah.
Because her uncle is the real fucking villain in this shit,
Yeah.
you know? So, can we talk more about Sparrow School?
Yeah. What are you thinking?
A lot. So, the other thing, too, is, like, she learns all this shit, which I think is... It's weird that it's, like, they're so, like, yeah, like, use sexuality and intimacy, and yet it's kind of like, well, they're such dicks. Like, they're all such assholes.
Yeah.
You know, like, I get that Jennifer Lawrence is a beautiful woman, but you're not going to get in anybody's pants with your fucking ice queen attitude from Charlotte Rampling. Like,
But
you know?
they're all ice queen. Jennifer Lawrence especially is
and
like this cold, bitter person.
the one dude who, like, the thing that pisses me off a lot about this is the guy who assaults her.
Yeah.
He's just like a faceless nothing.
Yeah.
He just, like, he's pissed off one time because
Mhm.
she corrects him, and then he just rapes her. And it's not that I'm like, oh, we have to delve into the psyche of a fucking deviant, but he's just like a force of, like, pure evil. And you're just kind of like, well, what more is there to this guy? He's just a plot device.
Do you
That's
mean
the thing.
one of the students at the Sparrow
student who
school?
assaults her in the shower?
Well, he's
he-
instructed to do it.
Right, but he's just a plot device.
Yeah,
And
100%.
that really pisses me off. That, like, people that it just frustrates me when characters are used that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, woman, it doesn't matter. And it happens all the time in
Mhm.
movies where it's just kind of like, this is a character only meant to drive the plot forward in some way for no reason. And it's like, well, that doesn't feel like a real person. That just feels like a paper figure. And
Yeah.
it really, and this, I really don't like it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because they don't have a clever, better way of taking the story
And
forward.
it's like,
It's a cheap ploy.
the thing that, so can I draw a comparison? One of my favorite films of all time is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, right?
Mhm.
The man who assaults Lisbeth Salander in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I'm talking about the Fincher version. The Swedish version is great, but the Fincher version is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
You establish this, like, pattern of abuse that this man goes through. And it's like, when you're in the room with this guy, quote unquote, as the viewer, you're like, this is not good. This guy is a bad guy, but you don't actually know how far he's going to take it until he has handcuffed Lisbeth
Yeah.
to the bed, right? And you're like, oh my God, this guy is really messed
He's
up.
a proper bad guy.
And this, you never get a chance to really see that with this one dude who's he just feels like a prop. Like, and
Because
I
it
don't know.
is, to be fair, it is like an X-Men school of sex craft or whatever, right? That's what they're doing. This is just another test. So in a way, he has to be the prop. Or
it's also convoluted though. Like,
Mm.
I don't
He
know.
has to be the guy, or if not him, they would have maybe make it seem more natural in the next scene where she naturally in her habitat gets assaulted by someone else. But like the fact that they have to keep hammering
There-
this to the point to the death that despite
It's-
all the assault.
It's so oppressively annoying. And
Yeah.
then also the other thing too is, like, I don't believe in the harshness of it really. 'Cause, like, then when
Yeah.
he tries to assault her in the shower, she beats him up, and then they get called before the witch's trial parole board.
Right.
And like Jeremy Irons is like, and you thought it okay to deprive Russia of a soldier or whatever.
Mhm.
And I was kind of like, I just don't think people would be that cold. It's so cold. And not in a way that's believable. You know, that's the problem that I have with it. There's another part too where the other character, like, they bring in this dude who's just like a random prisoner who's clearly like all fucked up. They've like tortured him or something.
Mhm.
And then Charlotte Rampling like tries to get the other lady to perform oral sex on them.
Yeah.
But it's so weird because, like, this guy, he just stumbles into the room in like a fugue state after being probably beaten, tortured, and imprisoned.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, free mouth stuff? Great.
I'm ready to go.
And it's like, what do you do? What? Would
Well-
that guy fucking do that? Like, would anyone do that? No, they would not. It's so dumb.
all of this shit leading up to that fucking Sparrow School education.
You're
Man.
on a you're on a ride, and then you come into this neighborhood of the
Yeah.
Red Sparrow School, and you're like, oh man, I wish I fucking got off at the last stop. This sucks. And that's how that was how I felt the first time I watched
Yeah.
this movie. Honestly, and I'm happy I stuck through it. I'm happy I got through all of this stuff. And again, like I said, it is disturbing and it is dark, but
not in a intriguing way.
No, it's not. It's just kind of like, oh fucking
Gotta
Jesus,
let it get it over with.
another fucking thing. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
There's, you know what? All these people, including Jennifer Lawrence, all the actors are people who are incredibly bitter, right? They play these perpetually fucking steely, cold, dead-eye actors who in all other movies are excellent, but in this film, they're just so dull
Yeah.
that at what point am I supposed to give a shit about what happens to any of them when they all act like fucking robots?
And the thing too, that's exactly it. You're totally right. And the thing about this like whole part is it's kind of like ultimately it doesn't really matter
No.
because when she goes
Yeah.
to Budapest, she just kind of becomes a regular spy.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why it frustrates me that it's like I said, it's the only thing setting this movie apart from a different spy thriller, and it's just the part that fucking ruins it
Sucks.
for me. It's so frustrating.
Instead of plot, this movie just gives you sex and violence, and neither of those things are good.
And this is a part where, like the quote I read earlier from the Lawrence eye, both of them saying like what they were going for. This is the part where I'm just like, I get it. I see what you're trying to do here, and
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting it even close.
No, because
The rest of the movie, yes, but you're not quite nailing it with the rest of the movie.
yeah,
This one, I'm just kind of like, you are facing the other direction from the target. Like, I don't get what is supposed to be done
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
if it started off with her character, Jennifer Lawrence's character, Dominica, being someone who's ambitious or career-driven or wanting to be a star, to then someone who kind of starts to sound like she's a little bit entitled, even though she comes from like dire situations. Her mother's ill, blah, blah, blah. Her uncle's obviously blackmailing her to join without any option to opt out. But at no point is the audience even given a second to like feel any sympathy for her. Even to the point of sheer violence and torture that is,
Yeah.
you know, like she suffers through all of this shit, but I'm just like, man, fucking don't be here.
Yeah.
Then. Like there's no.
This isn't even the last torture scene of the film
No. 'Cause
that Jennifer Lawrence is subjected to.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not railing against the violence of it, because sometimes very violent movies can be good and effective. I just don't think it is that effective. That's the thing. I don't, and because of that, it's so harsh, but it just feels needless.
It's cheap.
And I can understand people who are turned off by that completely from
Yeah.
the film. I really get that. And to maybe to a viewer who's not going to do a fucking podcast episode on it, I get if people are just kind of like, I don't want to watch Jennifer Lawrence be subjected to horrible shit for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, don't do it.
I get that, and that's
Yeah.
so. I don't want to watch any woman do that. Like I
Totally.
get it.
Totally.
But you know, we're here to critique the film that we got, and it's, you know, that's
Because
it's
you're-
kind of how we're chosen by God and we're put on this earth. Some people go to Sparrow School. Some people start a podcast. Some people work at a dumb job that they don't like. Guys, quit your job.
all three people stick to torture in a movie that is so much about like fucking espionage and duplicity and all this triple crossing. None of it is clever, and that is why we don't feel for Jennifer Lawrence's character. Like
No.
none of them feel like spies. None of them give you any like enthusiasm or
Which is very like might be it's actually kind of admirable about the film too, in a way, because real spying is boring.
right.
Like we talked about this with Enemy of the State, that
Yeah.
like real surveillance stuff is
Mhm.
fucking boring, and real spying is really boring.
Yeah.
I think you know the scene at the very beginning when Joel Egerton is just sitting on his sink and just tapping his lighter up and down on
Yeah.
the counter, because he's just waiting for some shit to fucking happen.
Mm-hmm.
Real spy work, I think, is just that. It's a lot of that fucking bullshit, you
Yeah.
know? And I think that that's okay, but it is like kind of like in this movie, you're just kind of like, come on now.
Then
Let's
why do you
fucking
need
get
to
it
go to
going, you know?
sex school to do
Y-
real
yeah,
spy work
yeah,
where you're just clicking
yeah.
your fucking lighter for 40 minutes a day? Like, There's so much gratuitous nonsense shit that doesn't go anywhere in this film that it's like, why you have it there then?
Her, like, the Hogwarts school of cradling the balls is like, it kind of prepares her and you for a much more exciting time. You know in James Bond when he meets with Q and Q's like, you've got machine guns in your the headlamps of your car, and if you wear this underwear, a little revolver will point up every time you get an erection and you can shoot whoever you're with. Like, that kind of sets you up for being like, oh, you're going to see all this stuff in later in the movie. And this kind of like, she doesn't actually really use her Sparrow skills very much.
No.
And just as we've said multiple times, just becomes a regular spy.
Yeah.
We got to move on to the plot because we've been on Sparrow school for a while. And the rest of the plot is, as I said, incoherent.
Totally.
She goes to Budapest. She blows her cover with Nate Nash.
Mm-hmm.
They find this scheme. She lives with another spy roommate, and she finds out this scheme they have for bribing this U.S. senator's chief of staff, played by the Weeds lady, Mary Louise Parker.
Weeds lady.
That's how she likes to be known. She's
the best part of this movie.
It's very respectful to be like, that lady
Weeds
in
bitch.
fucking Weeds. I don't know what's her name. Yeah,
I love her.
Weedle
She's great.
McWeederson. Yeah, she's really good in this. She plays a lush, just a total lush.
So just like her Weeds character, it's perfect.
Yeah, and then Joel Edgerton like kind of convinces J-Law to
become a double agent,
and she does. This is okay. The other, I'm already confused. The other thing too is that there's a mole named Marble, and that's really the goal, is to flush out this mole. Spoiler alert: the mole is Jeremy Irons, so we'll get to that. And so after this thing with Mary Louise Parker, Weeds Weedleton goes wrong. That chick from Weeds, what's her Weeds her face?
Yeah.
Goes wrong. J-Law and Volantov, her handler, are like called back to Russia. They're tortured excessively, which is another great fucking part of this scene. Really, like,
killed a goddamn bird already. Dude.
Really, it's really disturbing torture scenes. And it would be easier to handle if there wasn't so much grim, oppressive shit in this film already. But by that time, it's a little exhausting. And because of that, it's actually very effective and really well done. Mm-hmm. It's just by the time you're in there as a viewer, you're just like, fucking Jesus Christ.
Just like take a page out of fucking Card Counter, which obviously has its share of torture scenes, but you don't even have to see it in that graphic detail way. It's somehow more jarring because it's got like a perspective, like a fisheye lens or whatever. It's a directorial choice to show the torture scenes visually very different than the rest of the movie.
Are you suggesting that this movie would be better if Jennifer Lawrence was recast with Oscar Isaac and Joel Edgerton was recast with Willem Dafoe?
Oscar Isaac also. I feel like every single character.
Not Willem Dafoe.
God, no. No. I just want 7 Oscar Isaacs.
What if instead of Sparrow School, she just played poker?
But they're all in X-Men Apocalypse.
So
God damn it. Okay, no.
So
yeah.
Then okay. The plot, guys, just go watch the movie after you quit your job. Watch the movie to try and understand, because I really can't walk you through this very well because I'm a fool. But so she's tortured. She is believed that she's not a double agent, basically. She heads back to Budapest.
Yeah.
She hooks up with Joel Edgerton, and then her sadistic fucking other guy comes and he tortures Joel Edgerton, which is great. They escape that together, and although she's injured, she goes to a hospital, and Jeremy Irons shows up. He's like, hey, I'm the mole. So I'm the mole. You should expose me. You'll become a hero in Russia, but you can keep working with the Americans as a double agent. And instead, Jennifer Lawrence decides to expose her uncle to the Russians.
Yeah.
Fingering him as the mole.
Right.
The Russians kill him. Jeremy Irons continues to be alive. Jennifer Lawrence is a hero to the Russian Federation. Continues to be alive as a double agent.
Yeah.
The last scene of this film I really actually quite like.
What happens?
She's sitting on her bed. She's listening to music, just like in
the
opening scene, and she's listening to the piano thing from her ballet recital, which she told Nate about, which is a code from him, right? Mm-hmm. That's where it is.
So then towards the end, when she's listening to it, she gets a phone call.
I thought she did. She gets a phone call, and it's the piano music playing again through the phone, which she had told Nate was what she had danced to the first time.
Right.
And he plays it as a signal to her or something like that.
Right. Indicating that they're both still in touch.
Yes. And
even
she's
though they're
still
in different
double
countries.
agenting.
Right.
Yeah.
God damn.
And then, I mean,
lazy as hell.
yeah.
Dude.
She graduates basically from Red Sparrow.
Congrats. You're a blue sparrow now. Rainbow sparrow. Fucking take off.
Now that I'm talking about it, like the more I talk about it, I kind of get like frustrated about this movie.
Yeah. You know why? This is why I like Red Sparrow more than Pearl Harbor. Because I enjoy it when a movie aggravates me.
Hold on one second.
Rather than bores me to death.
I just want to be... Can you just repeat what you just said?
Pearl Harbor 1 and Pearl Harbor 2, Red Sparrow. I find the sequel to be more compelling.
Like normally I don't want to like pick fights on air with my co-host and, you know, my love, but you like Red Sparrow more than Pearl Harbor?
Divorce office.
Oh my god.
Right now. Dude, Pearl Harbor sucks. I'll find anyone who thinks so. I can't with that film. As outside of the 40-minute fight sequence, I feel like
we can't rehash Pearl Harbor. We just can't do it.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like back to back we've covered two films that I'm not the biggest fan of. And so it's a little bit of a struggle for me to be like, come on, think of a good thing. Think of one good thing.
I feel the same way where I'm just like, it's so aggravating because this movie really could have been quite good.
Exactly.
And it's not. So
it's not good.
It has,
and it could be.
It has very middling reviews, right? I think it has 45% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, like low.
I actually think it's better than that. I think people aren't giving it a lot of credit. As I said, it's not a very hard. So I also have one more note here that I read a lot of reviews for this movie because little inside baseball for everyone. We're recording a couple back to back, and so I've had less time to prepare as I normally do to watch two straight viewings of Pearl Harbor the way I did. But so Owen Gleiberman, one of the higher profile reviews, wrote for Variety, and because I'm a great journalist, I wrote down his name and hit the publication. His review is like positive. Like he liked the film, basically. He's like, good popcorn thriller. It's got but he kind of, and go read it. You can look it up if you really fucking care that much, which I doubt you do. But you can look it up and kind of everything he lists that's good about the film, I'm like, no, that's also what's bad about it. That's, it's weird. It's like, no, that's kind of what makes it annoying too.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's right in the, it's just right down the middle in that.
It's so mediocre for a movie that has so much talent and potential.
There's these stylistic choices by Francis Lawrence, the director, that I just really like. I'm like, this is, and it's nice because so as we talked about, like I've only seen the first Hunger Games, and I thought that was a huge piece of fucking garbage, just like the book was, and so I never watched the subsequent Hunger Games, but I've heard they're real bad, and I think the Hunger Games source material is basically like poison, but it's nice to be like, oh, this guy is like a competent and very good filmmaker. And now that I've like thought more about him, and as I said, we're going to talk about Constantine, I'm kind of like, I want to see more of his stuff. I'm not going to watch the Hunger Games. I'm not going to do it.
No.
But like, I'm like, I don't know. He's got a couple of things on Netflix that he's tapped to do adapt BioShock.
Oh,
and
sick.
I'm kind of like, now that I have spent a little more time with this guy, I'm like, that's fine with me.
Is it going to be HBO? Do you know?
Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Right. All right. Yeah. My expectations are already down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is like Netflix's taste has really changed in the past little while. But I don't know.
Wow.
Gotta try.
I mean, hey, I got nothing but love for Constantine, so I'm going to be in greater spirits when we chat more Lawrence.
Do we have a top 5 today?
Yes, we do.
We do? Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like we rushed through that plot, but really it is an incoherent and difficult.
Yeah, and at this point, what plot, right? Because for a spy thriller to have like a consistent sequence of events, that is not the case. We just kind of zoom through some of this shit, and then sex and sex craft, and then it's over.
Again, like another thing when I spoke at the top, being like I don't want to be too harsh because it's like an R-rated, star-driven adult thriller.
Yeah,
and I like that. The other thing too is like this is all filmed like in Hungary and Slovakia and stuff, and I'm like that's cool. I like
Stunning.
that. Like I mean, of all the things that would make this film more unbelievable is if it was filmed in fucking Atlanta or some shit.
Vancouver.
Yeah, Vancouver.
Yeah.
Atlanta,
perfect.
the Vancouver of Georgia. Yeah. Fucking everything's filmed there these days. Especially that show Atlanta.
Take it up with
all
us.
right.
Take it up with them.
Top 5, Red Sparrow.
Yeah. Top 5 other bird names that would make this movie just as exciting. At number 5, American Bush Tit.
Wait, so is it red American Bush Tit? Or?
Nope. There's no colors.
Whoa.
So I'm going race first, or like nationality first in this case.
Okay,
So
go on.
American Bush Tit.
Yeah, that's a
5.
good one. Yeah.
Number 4, Dick Sizzle. Did you even know that was a thing?
No, but I'm glad it is now.
My God, what a fucking cutie.
Are they?
Everybody go look up Dick Sizzle.
Dick Sizzle?
DickCissel.
Make sure you put bird behind that on Google.
I mean, if you really want to live it up. Number 3.
Sizzling dick.
Cock of the Rock.
Cock of the Rock.
Cock of the Rock.
No, that's a person in Game of Thrones. That's not a fucking...
That's a character.
That's a Game of Thrones character.
That's just Daniel Day-Lewis's stage name. He's out there. I'm doing Cock of the Rock, Mr. COTR himself.
I'm doing a performance art where I make shoes from scratch.
See,
it's my favorite. Did you know that he got into cobbling apparently after he retired from acting?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so on brand for that guy
for
too, dude.
sure. I mean, he spent 2 years living in the wild to get into his character for fucking The Crucible or whatever.
Shit.
Yeah.
Simmer down, Jeremy
Cool
Strong.
guy, dude.
Damn.
You can come for dinner. I'm telling you. You're invited.
Your Cock of the Rock is always invited.
Yeah.
Number 2, Satanic Goat Sucker.
Satanic Goat Sucker?
Satanic Goat Sucker.
Is that
And
like
it's like the cutest little... Look at this. I'm looking at him right now. Look at
what
this little...
area are they native to? Mexico?
Satanic Goat Sucker's medium-sized, grayish-brown bird, Indonesian.
They don't have...
Ridiculous name.
They don't have
Ridiculous.
Satans over there.
All the noise they make is plip-plop.
You're obsessed with animal noises.
Did you know a snail?
Oh yeah, see, this is why.
Did you know a snail's noise is munch crunch? Satanic Goat
It's one of the
Suckers.
first things you ever told me when we met. Yeah.
Yeah. I hold it dear to my heart.
It was just a glimpse inside of the hell that is the Red Sparrow school of our relationship.
Blip plop and munch
Blip,
crunch.
plop. Blip, plop.
Every quiz is what's that noise?
Go on. Number 1.
Finally, number 1. Number 1 replacement for Red Sparrow. Rough-faced shag.
I mean, that is appropriate.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And with that, you're welcome, Lawrence's. I've solved
That
this movie.
sounds like a British term for like an
Just an ugly girl.
Yeah. I had a rough face shag last night.
Oh, it's pretty
Yeah.
rough. It's not. Where are they from? Let's look at these dudes. New Zealand. King Shag.
Obviously. Fucking, they love a good shag.
They
down
do.
there,
They
yeah.
do. God, let it end. Just let it end.
Oh, guys, Red Sparrow. It's an all right film.
Yeah.
Come on. So what's your verdict on it?
I'll give it a 1.25 stars out of 5.
Really?
Yeah, man.
I would give it like a 2.5.
You go the half?
I'd go half. Yeah. I think if you forgive some of its trespasses, you could push it up to a 3. I think it's a decent film.
I can meet you at 2. I can meet you there.
If you give me $300 right now, I'll meet you there. Yeah.
I'll make a bird noise.
Yeah.
Crunch, crunch.
Thank you for listening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.